my name is Cassandra, and today I am here to show you how to do the Not Quite So Baked Alaska cake. It is from Pampered Chef's Season's Best catalog. I got it out of this recipe book right here, and as you can see, this is the cake that we're going to make. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what tools and ingredients you're going to need to make the cake, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set our oven to 325. Alright, once we got that started, then what we can do is we can start by making the cake as per the instructions on the cake box. The only difference is that it is not going to be in the oven for 26 to 31 minutes. It's actually going to be in the oven for about an hour and 10 to an hour and 15 minutes at a lower degree Fahrenheit. So I always like to start with the cake batter. Okay, so next is 1 cup of water, 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil, and 3 large eggs. Make sure you don't get any of the shells in there. I'm just going to throw those on the floor. Just kidding, that's a trash can. So there's no real science to cracking an egg, obviously. Just make sure you don't get the shell in there. Which I've gotten pretty good at. Alright. So now we can whisk the eggs, the chocolate cake mix, and the vegetable oil and the water all together. Just mix it until it's got a good consistency there. If you wanted to, you could actually do a mixer. Alright, so you can see that the mixture is nice and creamy there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray my pan. So this is actually my pan. The reason why we're going to bake it in this is because, as you saw from the picture, it is a round cake and it tears up to the top. So this is oven safe. It's very important that you check that when you do purchase a cake bowl like this. Alright, so like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this with cooking spray. Alright, so again, I'm going to dab it up a little bit there, just to make sure that the spray is all the way around there so that the cake doesn't stick to the pan. Alright, so the oven is preset. I'm going to just dump this in our cake pan. Alright, so I'm just going to use a spatula so I can get all of this batter out of here. Again, so this is what it is. We're going to put that in our oven and we're going to put it in there for about 70 to 75 minutes. You can check it halfway through. Please be careful as your oven is hot. Alright, so that's going. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash up my mixing bowl, and then I'm going to proceed with making the filling, which is my favorite part. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make the filling for our cake. We're going to start with that cream cheese that's been sitting at room temperature for about an hour or two. Don't want it sitting out too long because you don't want it to go bad. Right, and then we have 1 cup of powdered sugar. We're going to add that to our cream cheese. Next I'm going to use my big spatula. One thing I will say, when you are starting to mix this, if you go too fast, there's going to be powdered sugar everywhere. So make sure you go nice and slow. So you just work it in there until it's kind of got a creamy consistency. It's nice to have a spatula that's kind of flexible there, because as you can see, it's not easy to mix this stuff. It's all right for now. Okay, so next we're going to add melted chocolate, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to go ahead and take a half a cup of the chocolate chips. We're going to put it in a microwave safe bowl, and then we're going to microwave it in 20-second intervals. If you microwave it all 60 seconds at one time, it's actually going to burn your chocolate chips, and you don't want to do that. So again, we're just kind of stirring the chocolate chips just to loosen them up a little bit there. Just an FYI, it gets warmer, like the bowl does. It's warmer every time you pull it out. Again, get a little bit more melted there. Not quite though, there's still lots of solid chocolate chips in there. Like that might be good, but not quite. Probably just about 10 more seconds and then it'll be good to go. Okay, so you can see in there, it's all the way melted. Right like that, all cream smooth. So we can put all of this chocolate into our cream cheese mixture. Alright. The chocolate is in there with our cream cheese. So that in here. Alright. So we're just going to mix together the chocolate and the cream cheese mixture until it gets creamy. So when it's all the same consistency, then we'll know that we're good and we can move on to the next step. So the next step is going to be whipped cream. Why did the student eat the homework? Because the teacher told him it was a piece of cake. Oh. So now we'll move on to the whipped cream. So we're going to do 2 cups of the whipped cream in our cream cheese mixture. The rest of it is going to be for the frosting. I like the whipped cream at this consistency. If it's frozen straight out of the freezer, it actually doesn't come out right. Alright, so here's 1 cup. We're just putting that right in there. Alright, now we'll move on to the 2nd cup. I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator because we don't need to use it for a few hours. Okay, so now we're going to go back to folding this in. So it looks pretty good. You can see that there. So there's only one more ingredient to the filling, and it's more chocolate chips. So for the last 1/4 cup of chocolate chips, we're actually going to do my favorite part, which is we're going to use a food chopper to chop up the chocolate chips, and then you put them in the filling. So we'll get to that now. Okay, so what I've done is I have put enough chocolate chips in here to just fill the bottom of the bowl, as you can see. And then you're going to see why this is my favorite part. So you just take your chopper. Alright, you're going to see that it's pretty much ground into almost nothing. So we're going to put that first batch in there. Whew! Same thing again. Ground. Doesn't even look like chocolate chips anymore. You can see it's a giant mess here. Alright. So now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it in the refrigerator. It's very important that you do let it set for about an hour at least. Alright, so that sound means that our cake is ready to come out of the oven. Oh, wait, I forgot something. These are kind of important. We don't want to burn ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out. Alright, and then I'm going to check to make sure that it is actually ready to come out of the oven. So all I do is take a knife. You can take, usually with a cake, you can take a toothpick. However, in this situation, the cake is too deep. You can see that a toothpick would not work. So we're going to use a long knife. You just put it in there. Pull it back out. And now if the knife comes out with no cake batter on it, like that, you can hardly see it, then that means that the cake is ready to go. If it still had a little bit of cake batter, that would mean that the cake needs to go in for a little bit longer. But we are good, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that everything is turned off. And then we will let this cool for about 15 minutes or so. Okay, well, the cake has had 15 minutes to cool, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in the microwave. That way it can cool overnight, and then we are going to come back in the morning and we're going to cut the cake, and then we're going to add the filling to the layers, and then we're going to frost it, and the cake is going to be done. Alright, so just to be on the safe side, I'm going to still use my pot holders to put the cake in the microwave. Good morning. We're here now to take our cake out of the microwave so that we can begin cutting it, and then we can start filling the icing. We'll put the frosting on, and then we'll be good to go. We're going to flip this upside down to get it out of the bowl. This is where having that spray in there made it very easy for the cake to come out. So we're going to put it in this way because I don't know if you can see that the cake isn't exactly level, and we do want it level because it's going to be flipped upside down. Before we cut the cake though, I wanted to take a moment to talk about knife safety. It's very important that when you're cutting a cake that you don't get distracted and you actually pay attention to your hands, because something could happen if you're playing around and like that. You could cut your hand, and then you'd have to you know, sometimes you can just manage it, but other times you might have to go to the hospital if you're not careful enough, because knives can be very sharp. Okay, so back to business. Now we're going to go ahead and, like I said, cut off this top so that we'll have a nice even cake. Okay. You can see it's pretty much even there. We've taken off a good nice layer there. Okay. So now what we can do is we're going to flip the cake upside down. And then we're going to start cutting it. We're going to cut it 3 times. So we're going to cut it in half, and then each half we're going to cut in half again. So we're going to have 3 layers and 4 pieces of cake here. Okay, so I'm going to start by cutting it in the middle. And then we're going to cut the bottom half in half and the top half in half. So I'm going to start with the top half. To the side because it's easier to cut. Alright, so now we're going to go to the bottom half. So now you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 pieces of cake there. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we are going to put the filling in our cake 1 layer at a time. So we have the bottom layer here. And we're just going to take our filling. We're just going to add 1 layer at a time. So now that we have each layer done, we're going to take the remaining filling and we're going to just fill in the gaps. Okay, so you see that there? Alright. Now that that's done, we can actually start with the frosting. So for our final step, we're going to frost the cake with the rest of our whipped cream, Cool Whip. You gotta have a little fun when you're baking. Okay, so I have one more corny joke for you. What is an elf's favorite cake? A shortcake. Alright, and then it looks like we're almost done with putting all the whipped cream on here. We still have a little bit left in the bowl, but we'll just use that when we're going to kind of make the cover-ups. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create little peaks on the cake. So you're just going to use your spreader and you're going to just pull it out. So that is our finished product. Okay, so now we're going to cut the cake, and so that you can see what it looks like on the inside after it is completely made. Okay, so now that it's cut, we're going to take 1 slice out. And that is it right there. And that is what the cake looks like in the middle. You do get a little bit of the whipped cream there. But that is my baked Alaska. And one final corny joke. So what happens when nobody shows up to your birthday party? You can have your cake and eat it too, which is what I'm going to do right now. So good. All right, the cake is finished, so we're going to go ahead and cover that bad boy up and put them in the refrigerator. That is where you want to make sure that you keep your cake. It does have to stay cold. I'm going to finish my slice of cake with a cup of milk because that is the way that I like it. It tastes the best that way. Then we're going to go ahead and do the dishes. You want to make sure that you start and end every cooking exploration with a clean kitchen. I hope that you have found this very instructional and that you make sure that you exercise the necessary precautions when you are using a kitchen. So to reiterate, we want to make sure that we don't burn ourselves when we go in the oven, so always make sure that you're using pot holders, and also when you're in the microwave. And then also when you're using a knife, make sure that you don't play around and that you are paying attention to what you're doing, and that always be aware of where your fingers are. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you found this fun and instructional.